Okay, everybody, it's very great to be here. And today, actually a student partner from India, I'm actually a gold Microsoft student partner, certified Microsoft Technology Associate, and loves to share about things about Azure and data science. So before we get into the topic, I just want you that wherever you do have in your mind of questions, make sure that you always ask, because questions are never silly. What's are silly are the answers. So without further ado, I'll be letting you start what we understand by data science. Okay, right? So we're correct to go. So whenever you think there is a question, just type in the question answer, and I'll be making sure that I can answer to the most specific way that I can, right? So, okay, you might have heard about data science, machine learning, AI. And really, these things were not coined today. These things were coined in the early 90s or late 90s. But why are they into so much of, into the buzz? The reason is that from the globalization of internet, the data has been produced in such a way that we are turned into more specific big data. To handle a big data, we use various techniques, right? But you know what? Today's data is tomorrow's treasure, because from the data we can understand the behavior of every person. So let's start. So for you, what is data science? You might be answering of your own word, or very specifically this presentation on the screen of yours is shown that it's a combination of various other things, like, well, the first is data engineer. The person who understands data is actually handling through data preparation, data governance, practices of SQL, and the thing is you have to have the right data to understand the quality of data, because if you don't understand the data, the outcome would be wrong. Obviously, being a data scientist or data science enthusiast, you won't want that. Second one is traditional research. Now, obviously, in traditional research, which we do understand is that you as a person have to understand the type of data you want. Suppose you want the data that, for instance, the uses of your applications, you are on the service, right? So now you have to understand what are the data columns you need, right? It's not about time, it's not about how many of the people installed it, how many of the people run that application, and how many of the people after running the application uninstall it. If the ratio is greater, that means there is something lagging into an application. And then is something known as substantive expertise. You have to understand the customer, what actually the outcome should be. Because for you, the outcome should be else, for others it's something else. So you have to understand, because data when it's being provided is actually what's been required. So always when you have your question for data science applications, always ask yourself, what should I do with this? So, okay, there is something known as data analyst and data scientist, right? Like if I talk about like business administration or exploratory data analysis, these are actually things not mainly, but usually are handled by the data analyst. But when we talk about data scientist, it's actually a thing of data analyst and data scientist. Where is that? The exploratory data analyst. You have to analyze the data what's been provided via data set. Obviously, being a data scientist, you have to understand the algorithms to make sure the outcome of your data should be so much that it shouldn't be providing any error or minimizing error, right? And obviously, data product engineering. It's actually the productiveness of the data that you take out from a given data set is actually what makes you a good practitioner of data scientist. If anybody do have a question, do let me know, because this is the introductory part. And after this part, I'll be moving towards the programming part, because you know what? Theory is good, but practical is best for me at least. So just type in your questions in the questionnaire box. I'll be having you after my session of theory, and then I'll be starting off my practical. So what is data science? To be very specific, typical job duties of data scientists, it's not actually descriptive. It's depend upon your position, your place, your job type. So usually collecting large amount of unruly data and transferring some and transforming it into a more usable format. Obviously, when you extract data for something, you're getting the raw data. And that data needs training, more emphasizing on what you actually needed, increasing efficiency, decreasing runtime, and decreasing that error, what makes it the most important part of a data science project. Solving business-related problems using data-driven techniques. Obviously, if you are having a business, or if you're hired for some business, you should understand the culture of business and what the businessman or the woman or business owner is understanding by the data that's been provided to you. Working variety of programming languages, including SAS, R, and Python. Okay, for me, it's Python and R are the best, and I don't agree with this. SAS is also great, but you know what? Better functionality and better integrity, which makes me think. Having a solid grade of statistics, okay, it's not very much required, but hey, but when you start data science practicing, the statistics comes into consideration. You can gain through the time in the course. Staying on top of analytical techniques such as more machine learning, deep learning, and obviously this doesn't need to be explained, but you have to understand the models, how you can apply them to get the most meaningful results. Communicating and collaborating with the IT and business, yes. Actually, you are the person where you're connecting the business and the IT. When connecting these two, you're actually making sense, providing more informatic oriented to the research work in the business domain, and looking for overlap pattern data as well as plotting trends that helps the business bottom line. When we train a data as a human, our mind is actually capable of recognizing patterns, right? So data sometimes makes pattern, and that is very much required for you to understand the graph orientation. Suppose it's straight up, straight down. That means, you know, as a human, we can understand down means negative and up means positive. So it's really important for you to understand the business bottom line, right? So why there is so much of hype about? Obviously, you must have watched YouTube videos or the advertisements around that learn this because it's the future of technology. So actually, as the data gathers more and more, the demand of data science are increasing. It has grown over 50% since 2012. But you know, surprisingly, there are only 35,000 people in the US have data science skills, while hundreds of companies are hiring for those roles. So you understand the importance of being data science and the more people having the skills. Software engineering is a common starting point of professionals who are top 5 fastest growing jobs today, obviously. But for future aspects, the career path to machine learning engineer big data developers begins with solid SE background. Obviously, there's a flexibility when you choose data science as your career. So, okay, these are what data science, these are the actual things that I thought to share with you. So you can have a look at it, you can have a pause on the, okay, this is live, you can't pause. Okay, when they're recorded and been published, you can pause and understand who are actually the data scientists. Okay, here's an application. It's a Skype product of Microsoft. Actually, Skype uses something called translator. As it's implied, Skype uses machine learning to understand, translate conversation between two people speaking different languages through third party bots that joins your pod. Now, how does it do that? Okay, I'll be explaining to you. And second is the detect volume Skype users. Example range from users who send spam images. There is a spam detector, right? Which exactly spams and text, understands the culture of the text or the voice, and then helps you to understand the spam detector. So, okay, there are, for me, I usually use as much of the libraries of Python, and I'm actually a Python practitioner. So that's 6 actually, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. So many things, and this should be taken in consideration for you to understand. Okay, first thing first is Numpy. What is Numpy? Is a library in Python, obviously programming language, supports large multi-dimensional arrays and matrices, along with large collections of high-level mathematical functions to operate on these arrays. Now you'll be asking, why should we use Numpy? Because importing the Numpy to your existing program will enable the program to handle large amount of data, be it in an array format, right? Scikit-learn. It's actually a software, free software for machine learning library that features various classification, various other techniques that usually occurs with machine learning model. By introducing this into your program, you're actually enabling the program capacity to handle machine learning models functionality. And what is Panda? Panda is actually a software library written for the Python programming language for data manipulation. Now, obviously, when being a data scientist, you have to understand that you should be able to manipulate data. For the same functionality, you have to introduce Panda because actually Pandas makes a lot of sense when you want to make some manipulation of data, offers data structures, operations for manipulating tables and time series. Very important in being software data science. Then comes the Matplotlib, a plotting library for programming language for mathematical numerical extension. It's actually a thing that enables you to perform more advanced mathematical way in your programming, thus helping the more functionality and using of more, like to specifically like more of hardcore algorithms. And here comes the TensorFlow. It's obviously a software, open source. Symbolic math library is used for machine learning applications such as neural networks. Like if being a data science, if you want to consider it for yourself as a neural network enthusiast, you should consider of usage of TensorFlow because it is the way, one of the way to introduce a program to the neural networks techniques. And Keras. Keras is an open source neural network library in Python running on top of TensorFlow and Microsoft Cognitive Toolkits, developed with the focus of enabling fast experimentation. So again, if you do have any sort of question, please do let me know. I'll be answering at the end of this session and would be happy and guess what I think.
So we have one question that which is best, AWS or Azure? So just in my point of view, just I asked a question to the Michael that which is best, Angular or React. He told that all are best. That is, so what requirement, how flexible are you in on the server? So choose those platforms. Both are best. AWS is also best as well as AWS is also best. Yeah. So according to you, what do you think?
So to be very specific in these answers, because this answer compares to major dominance of the market, right? AWS and Azure. So for me as a student or as a user or as someone who wants to have the most of the potential of each and every custom, it's actually depending upon the requirement you want. For instance, if you are a student, so there is, like Azure provides a lot of things for students to make the hands-on. If you want something, each and everything is perfect in their own way. It's on you what you want it because each function is on other and each function is on other. So you have to make sure that what you want are present on that. So for me, as data science or data science enthusiast, you should be really into the knowledge of doing things, not hindrance of any technology, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, learning data science with Python tools, like this Jupyter, oh my God. If you are a data science practitioner, you must have heard this term Jupyter. It's so much popular term and so much functionality available, I can't tell you because after this session, I'll be using obviously Jupyter to make you understand a project on NLP to make sure that everything goes correct. And obviously, similar to Jupyter Notebook, there is something called a Google Doc type sharing collaboration. So collaborate.research@google.com helps you to collaborate your research work with other partners. There's that both of them or 3-4 as a team, you can collaborate on the very same thing. And Crystal, effortless infrastructure for deep learning. Yes, for deep learning, I believe the Crystal is the most stable GPU-enabled Jupyter environment in the cloud. But yeah, there's lots of things that you can have to try on because every day the technology increases, so does the competition. So now this is actually the data theory part. So how much time do I have?
So you can continue.
I can continue, right? So first thing first is that you have to gather data, right? So data gathering is very important and very much requirement for you to make sure the first step of data scientist or data science. Whether that's because of a company has neglected to put the necessary systems placed together, but it's really important to collect data to understand the nature and understand how the output could be extracted from the data gathered. Data preparation is the second step, obviously, and it concludes various steps. For general term, I have put in the data preparation, but trust me, data preparation contains a lot of terms, and it's actually preparing the data and making it usable, more meaningful. Unlike datasets you'll find in competitions in real world having the best, very messy datasets, missing values, errors in data, data formatting, normalization, outliers are actually parts of data preparation. Now after that, you have to understand when you prepare the data, you have to actually explore the data. Like when you explore the data, you have to make sure that clustering algorithms, cataplots, bar graphs, and etc. better understand structure of the data in a model building step. Now when you have done model building step, let's get into model building. When your data cleaned and formatted. Now think, this small little line has a very deep meaning. When with your data cleaned and formatted, that is, when your data is prepared, explored, everything is done, you will have an opportunity to explore a variety of models to see which one is best. Because when you put model, emphasize it, train it, efficiency changes. Obviously, you as a data science student or data scientist or data science enthusiast want to make sure that your model should have maximum of the efficiency, and there is comes the part of model building. Data validation. Prediction accuracy is common benchmark. Obviously, I told you like a few moments ago. For whether your model is preparing or performing well, however, oftentimes there are evaluation metrics to be considered. Yes. False positive, negative, false are always important to think about the perspective of the programmer you're working on. If you're predicting disease, you have to be minimizing false negative. Since you know what, it results in a yes. So model deployment finally, and hopefully when everything is okay, here comes the task of deployment. You will deploy your model into wild gathered data feedback. How it's going to be a tweak to improve its time goes on. This is by no means a comprehensive list of steps. These are actually generalized steps, but trust me, each of the steps are very important to implement a data science project from scratch. So I believe that you have understand each and every process, and if you do have any sort of questions from this theoretical part, do comment down below and I'll be happy to answer now, because for the next moment I'll be starting with a project, short project, not major but minor, showing the power of NLP to implement how it can just help you out to carry the task in understanding the knowledge through power of data science on Microsoft Azure notebooks and Jupyter. Any questions?
Yeah, so you can continue your demo.
Okay. Just give me a moment. So let's get into the Bing. Okay, so I'll be starting with actually Azure notebooks. Now you must be thinking, why should I use Azure Notebook, right? When you have lots of like Jupyter on the local machine, the first thing comes into your mind, you know what? Spider-Man's dialogue. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Here is this thing, which if a project requires your great power of enthusiasm, it actually requires a great amount of resources for you to make sure that all the resources are being fulfilling. If somebody's computer is having a low configuration, don't worry. Microsoft Azure Notebooks got you covered. So usually when we do notebooks, it's actually notebooks.azure.com, and then obviously if your user should be clicking on the sign in, and then you should have like I should use my student partner account, so let's use it. Okay, what says username's okay, it's UT. Okay, so we are into the portal of Azure Notebooks, which is actually our very own profile to ultimately get in the project, right? So let's get started without wasting more time. So this is actually if you have made your projects or tribe, it should actually look like this. So because the next step is to create a folder, and then in the folder we'll be using files. This is how it actually works. So let's get started from the very first thing. Click on the My Project. Okay, project name, let's give it Tech Webinar. Is it correct? Already exists. Okay, Tech Webinar Try. So, okay, this is a public. If you want this project to be considered in your searches for various Bing searches or make it a public project, click it on. It will make it public. Projects can be viewed by anyone who has the URL, right? And obviously, initialize this project with the README file. I always do this. My habit, I can help you out. So when you do that, so it actually gives you the folder of Tech Webinar Try. So README file is done. Now what I do need. Now, obviously, you need a platform where you can understand and try your project. So click on the new, see folder, blank file, markdown, notebook. So for mine, it's like I want a notebook. So which one should I correct? So obviously latest one. And this one I should do as name as NLP webinar, Webby. I believe, okay. So done. So let's wait for some time. So let me make you understand what we are going to do in this project. We'll be using a sentence analyze to understand the nature of sentence, modify into something, and we'll be proceeding into something that's called sentence analysis in natural language processing. Right.
Okay, so can you say something about the internship as a data science?
Internship.
Yeah.
Okay. See, lots of companies are hiring in be it India or be it any other part of the world about data science. They're actually training the students to understand the data science techniques and how they can build a meaningful model into something that could be beneficial for company. Obviously, when they are training you, they're actually investing the resources on you. And when you're good at something like, like after successful training or showing your skills, you can completely change yourself into an employee for the respective company. Yes. And actually, the data says that if I share with the data, like where was it? Just a minute. PPT, if I'm not wrong there. Yes, and here it is. IBM itself predicts that the demand for data scientists will be soar by 28% by the end of 2020. This year, it's actually going to increase by 28%. So 650, when you see over the past decades of 2012, it's actually turning into something. You have to think that 650% is nothing less. It's more than any of the those branches. So being an internet, being software data scientist, is really what I think that could be the future beholds for you.
Okay, that's good. And so please can you explain the extra use case of CBOW? So CBOW means continuous back of words.
It's actually very important in terms of techniques when you utilize the prospectors in your own project, because when you're continuously backing up things, it actually saves you from becoming any errors or minimizing losses. That's really important task when you're being as a practicing about data science or any part of the project that we're occurring to.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and moreover, can you say something about the golden Microsoft Student Partner?
See, being Microsoft Student Partner was my first thing that was happened to my life as a very early stage, but being a Gold Microsoft student empowered me more. So what is the difference between a Microsoft Student Partner and a Gold Microsoft Student Partner? Well, Microsoft Student Partner has various milestones like alphas, alpha 2, betas, and then comes the goal. Gold are the Microsoft Student partners whom actually other Microsoft Student partners who are below them are looking for to become something. They are actually community leaders. They share things to the most of the students. They actually teach others, mentor others, share things, passions, and guide them through the mentorship process of being a Microsoft Student partner empowers you, not only you, but every other individual student out there. And the qualities that are Microsoft Student partners, obviously there are some exclusive benefits of being a gold Microsoft Student partners, but it's add something to your responsibility, and you're the the leaders of the pioneer club of Microsoft Student partner. Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And moreover, means particular in India, how to apply for MSP.
See, MSP, if I do talk about, let me just get into the process, and I also made a video about that. Like obviously, when we talk about, obviously, if I'm someone who wants to apply for Microsoft Student Partner, we'll be exactly going to the Bing and search Microsoft Student Partner. So yes, this is the site for studentpartners.microsoft.com. You just head it up to them, and yes, this is the process that starts how to become a Microsoft Student Partner. When you just click on the apply. Okay, what happens to after apply? Apply after, it actually gives you an application which consists of written part and video part. Written part is 3 times, and video you have to make at least they want one, but I believe that providing more specific about yourself will provide them a judge better that you should be a Microsoft partner or not. And when the team gets all the things, and they will reply you in like as soon as possible, because Microsoft partners are actively community who helps to unlock the potential with the help of Microsoft technology. So I suggest if anyone is you are or student, don't waste time. Click on the button below and apply for your Microsoft partner right now.
Okay, so thank you. So I have a last question about for the students that what solution would you give for a student to build his or her career?
See, it's always important for a student when he or she starts to build a career. You know, students are everyone. Everyone is student. Learning is never-ending process. So what's the better part, or me as a gold Microsoft partner learn from all the things that I've done in my life till now? You have to have an aim. Because if you don't have an aim, you don't have an objective. If you don't have an objective, you will not work towards a goal. If you don't have your goal, you won't work. And if you don't work, you can't get yourself into the most amazing platforms around the world. So it's very important at an early age that you should get at least your aim, because aim, if you have an aim, you are ambitious, you know what to do, you're the best person, you're the hero of your own story.
We have another question from the Pawan. You were talking about the NLP, natural language processing. So he's saying that I'm currently working on the same. Could you please explain about TF-IDF a little bit on it?
Okay. See, this is actually a part of the data science programming where you're integrating with toolkit. Like if your machine has a backend development program that actually supports your this functionality, and it's using the functionality to encounter your operations, it enables to understand the natural language processing level, abstracting each character, manipulating whatever you wanted, and then benefiting to the fitting knowledge of the very performance line in the solution. So I believe that programming library is very much enthusiastic about when you're trying to manipulate things in the sentence or extracting voices through text form. Could enable you to manipulate into various type of operations you need. Yes.
Okay, so I hope Pawan has got the better answer about TF-IDF.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all over. So thank you for all the speakers about the Angular architecture as well as about the progressive movement and about the data science.